I'll tell you what's funny. I made fun of the fucking Twitter guy for fucking Sieg Heiling not once but twice. And I never look at my emails. I was scrolling through my emails and it said my Twitter account had been flagged for inappropriate. I don't even tweet anymore. It had been flagged for whatever. What a fucking baby. Just like Hitler. A fucking baby. How about the fact that the Twitter guy he's not even from here. He's from South Africa. He comes to this country and wants to turn it into a fucking dictatorship. He doesn't feel that we deserve democracy. Can you just imagine doing that? Going to another country and just deciding, yeah, you know what? I'm going to change this form of government because I've decided. Yeah, he doesn't mind living under a dictatorship as long as he's on the good side of it. Fucking laminated face cunt. Hey, now what are you going to do? Reflag my account?
That was a clip from the February 17th episode of Bill Burr's Monday Morning Podcast, where he says that Elon Musk literally flagged his Twitter account to, I guess, retaliate against him for daring to mock him, which isn't just embarrassing and childish and shows that he can't take criticism. It's also very short-sighted because picking a fight with a comedian like Bill Burr is not going to end well, but he just couldn't help himself. And by the way, Bill Burr is not the only comedian who's going after Elon Musk lately, and we'll get to that later. But it's just ironic to me that the world's richest man can't take a joke, even though he himself insists that comedy is being destroyed by people because they get too offended. I mean, he said this at CPAC last week.
The left wanted to make comedy illegal, you know? Yeah. Like, you can't make fun of anything. So then it was like, comedy sucks. It's like, nothing's funny. You can't make fun of anything. It's like, legalize comedy. Yeah. Legalize comedy.
He is such a fucking loser. Goddamn. But I mean, this is the guy who's accusing everyone else of not being able to take a joke. Meanwhile, he's literally flagging Bill Burr's inactive Twitter account to punish him for doing comedy at his expense. I mean, you can't make this shit up. Hypocrisy doesn't even begin to describe it. But after hearing that Bill Burr was flagged and that Musk was trying to censor him, I had to figure out what Bill Burr said to get Elon Musk so triggered, and I found it. And now I understand why Elon Musk was so offended by it, because Bill Burr didn't just roast him for his Sieg Heil. He hit the deepest insecurities that Elon Musk has, and he very obviously hit a nerve, hence why Elon Musk tried to censor him. But without further ado, this is the clip from the January 30th episode of Bill Burr's podcast that made Elon Musk so upset.
Hey, Elon Musk, if you don't mind, we'd like to enjoy our life. I don't think we need to reboot Adolf Hitler, you fucking lunatic. I'm sorry pretty girls don't like you until you have $1 billion. Maybe Elon, he has all this money and power and he thought it was going to fill that fucking void and it didn't. And rather than face it in a panic of the profound loneliness. Okay, and I'm coming from an empathetic place here because I experienced that when I took mushrooms. This profound sense of loneliness. And then you either face that and figure out where it is, or you just go full Nazi. And go. I feel he's more Mussolini. If I'm to look at his face, I feel he's more Mussolini than he is Hitler. I got to be honest with you. The fact that he did that and everyone isn't fucking outraged is just, is beyond me. Because I always felt like this country collectively all agreed that Hitler was not a good person, to put it mildly. And the irony that this fucking asshole was able to make $1 billion in the nation that those kids saved in the 1940s would then turn around and fucking spoon with the person that was killing their fucking fellow soldiers. It's beyond me. It's just fucking beyond me. You know what he reminds me of? Like back in the day, like when I was coming up, there was an entire generation of comedians that I was in that was enamored with Bill Hicks. And you'd see these Bill Hicks ripoffs, and they would go on stage and they would have like a leather jacket and they'd be smoking a cigarette talking about society, man. I feel like he's doing that. I think he's like a recovered nerd, and now he's trying to be like the bad boy. This bad boy that Kate Moss would date. And I just don't think it's going to happen no matter how much money he has. I think that realization hit him, and he didn't know how to handle it. And in a panic, he went full fucking Third Reich. He went Fourth Reich. He's trying to fucking, he's trying to keep it going. Sorry I'm laughing about this shit because I don't know what to do about it. It's fucking terrifying. It is absolutely fucking terrifying. Not that he did it, because there's idiots everywhere. It's that the lack of we need to stop this fucking immediately is beyond disturbing.
Yeah, so that is why Elon Musk was so mad at Bill Burr. And after hearing that, I can't not see Mussolini whenever I look at Elon Musk's big dumb face. Not necessarily because they look similar, but because they both have certain looks about them. Almost like their skin is a plastic texture or laminated, as Bill Burr put it. But Bill Burr, what he's saying here about Elon Musk, I actually think that he did go full Nazi because he can't find love. I genuinely believe that Bill Burr is onto something here, because this male loneliness epidemic that we hear a lot about, it is correlated with far-right politics. And broadly speaking, the issue of male loneliness is compounded by neoliberal policies and a lack of economic opportunity for young men. And even though Musk's extremism probably isn't the result of economic anxiety, I think that we can probably rule that out. His loneliness and insecurity does make him susceptible to right-wing radicalization in the same way that young men might be susceptible to it because of their loneliness as well, because it fosters a sense of hopelessness that's akin to the hopelessness felt by young men who have poor economic prospects. Although it's possible that Musk does feel some sort of economic anxiety, just on a different scale, where he feels like the other billionaires are nipping at his heels and they could surpass him and become the first trillionaire before him. I don't know. It's not impossible to think that economic competitiveness still takes place at that level, as absurd as it sounds. I mean, we are dealing with a narcissist and a man baby, so it's possible. But when you take into account the fact that Elon Musk is so desperate to be liked, and a lot of lonely young men themselves are becoming reactionaries, it's also a possibility that Musk adopted a more far-right orientation, in part because he wants to appeal to those young men. And that's not to say that he didn't already have these reactionary views. It's just that the right-wing shift of young men maybe influenced him to lean into his reactionary views a little bit more. But to show you what I mean, a study published in the latest issue of the Journal of Social Science and Medicine found that loneliness was directly correlated with support for right-wing populism, i.e. fascism, in the Netherlands. And generally speaking, populism is associated with loneliness. Now, in a research review by Brad Stolberg published in Time in 2022, he explained how extended loneliness specifically makes you more susceptible to right-wing radicalization, writing, "Loneliness tends to build on itself. Dr. Caciapo found that when someone is lonely for an extended period of time, they become more likely to further isolate, which in turn makes them lonelier and thus more anxious, insecure, and fearful. This may be exacerbated by a cutthroat economy in which those struggling to make it have little or no time to build community, and those at the top all too often suffer from status-driven workaholism, which also crowds out time for social connection." In fact, a 2021 study published in the British Journal of Psychology found that neoliberalism can reduce well-being by promoting a sense of social disconnection, competition, and loneliness. These findings echo what I found in reporting for my recent book, The Practice of Groundedness. When we are constantly focused on the next thing and trying to gain a comparative advantage, we generally don't build great connections. We too often prioritize productivity over people, optimization over community. This may feel good in the short run, but it tends to leave us worse off in the long run. He continues, a study published in the journal Group Processing and Intergroup Relations found that social exclusion is a leading factor behind radicalization. A 2021 study conducted by researchers at Rand Corporation found that loneliness is one of the predominant reasons people adopt extremist views and join extremist groups. A study published earlier in 2022 in the journal Political Psychology found that weak social belonging is associated with an increased probability to vote for populist parties, especially on the right. So this is what's happening at the individual level. But when you apply this to the macro level, we're beginning to understand one of the many reasons why capitalism inevitably devolves into fascism. People work longer hours for lower wages. Young people today just don't have the upward mobility that their parents and grandparents had. You know, they can't buy homes, they can't buy cars, they're in debt. They barely have time for a social life because they're so overworked, and they're crippled with anxiety and depression that goes untreated, since mental health care in this country is very inaccessible. And to the extent that they can even have a social life, it almost exclusively takes place online, which poisons their perception of people, since these platforms incentivize toxic behavior to keep you engaged longer. So, it's easy to see how in this environment, people gradually become more angry and desperate, and they start looking for answers as to why things are so bad. You know, maybe you stumble across a right-wing influencer like Andrew Tate who tells you women are actually the problem, not you. And through him, you find maybe a different red pill influencer who tells you that your masculinity is under attack. And over time, you begin to build up this resentment towards feminism. And you start to go further and further down that rabbit hole and begin to believe that civil rights, LGBTQ plus people, you know, getting more recognition, maybe that's another reason why traditional norms that men once benefited from have been destroyed. And immigrants are the reason why you can't find a better paying job, since they're taking all of the jobs, apparently, according to politicians, and that is inhibiting your ability to be economically dependent and competitive, which makes you less dateable. And after all of these ideas begin to fester for years and the anger continues to build, before you know it, you're in far-right territory, and it's only a matter of time before an opportunistic politician exploits your misguided rage after noticing how the tides have turned. And that's kind of where we're at right now. And this is why a left-wing response is the antidote to right-wing extremism, because we trace it to the root of the problem. The rich people at the top who bought off government and rigged the entire economy against all of us, they're the problem. Right? They're the common enemy, not marginalized people. They're simply being used as a scapegoat to keep us all fighting each other instead of fighting the elites at the top. But interestingly enough, Elon Musk is one of the robber barons who's responsible for this situation. And even though he's the richest man in the world, it still goes to show you that loneliness is a motherfucker, and it spares no one, no matter how much money you have. And that's why Bill Burr's comments pissed him off so much, because he touched on a deep insecurity that Elon Musk has. And it's that he just wants to be liked. He is desperate to be liked. He bought Twitter to blast his tweets in our faces. He paid somebody to boost him in Path of Exile 2 to be respected by gamers, which is still embarrassing and mind-boggling to me. He won capitalism. He's the richest man on earth. And he bought himself access to every single politician and celebrity that he could dream of. And after doing all of that, it still doesn't change the fact that we all still see him as a pathetic loser. He is desperate to get everybody to see him the way that he sees himself, and no amount of money in the world can get us to see him that way. We see him for what he is. We fucking despise him, and he knows it, and that's really eating away at him every single day. For example, after he was loudly booed on stage at Dave Chappelle's show, Cracked explains that he was despondent and, quote, locked himself inside his office at Twitter, causing concerned employees to consider calling in a wellness check by the San Francisco police because they thought he was going to self-harm. Now, thank God Elon Musk didn't actually hurt himself, and, you know, if you're watching this and you work for Twitter or Tesla, please reach out to me specifically. I'd be happy to try to talk to him and definitely discourage him from hurting himself. I'm also beaming some additional thoughts to my viewers that I have about this that I don't feel comfortable sharing on YouTube. But it just goes to show you that even though he has all the money in the world, he still doesn't have the one thing that he wants the most: for people to like him. See, you can pay people to be around you and compliment you endlessly, but you can't force them to actually like you. And since he doesn't have the necessary intelligence or self-awareness to course correct and make himself more likable, he just doubles down on the things that make him unlikable, and it just makes himself more of a target for comedians like Bill Burr as he continues to spiral and goes full Nazi. Now, on the note of comedians taking aim at Elon Musk, I have to show you one comedian in particular who has the best impression of Elon Musk. And I think that we're going to see this more commonly because he is spiraling. He's very clearly having a meltdown. He's crashing out in front of everyone. But like, here's one of the best impressions I've ever seen of Elon Musk. This is Alex Biron.
Would you say that you have a breeding kink?
I have a breeding kink. No, yeah, it's like, well, it's about a population, you know, it's pretty much receding everywhere. And, you know, that's a real problem that we have. And, you know, if we don't have, obviously don't have a breeding kink.
Roughly 1 million employees have responded so far to this email. Does that mean that the remaining 1 million or so federal employees now risk?
Mr. President, ask us to go hard. So, you know, we're going to do that. To get rid of unnecessary bureaucratic kind of thing, like unnecessary work. So you do too many things at the government. Things take too much time. So just one email sent out. President Biden, right? It's a top-down. He didn't have competence. He didn't have care. He could barely speak. And it's not. Yeah, you need someone who can get the job done.
6 million people that haven't responded, though, Elon, they are on the bubble.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Okay. So far, so good. Yeah.
Go follow Alex if you haven't already. I'll link to his Twitter account down below. This man is a legend in the making. But I mean, that is what Elon Musk has in store. And the resentment towards him is only going to grow as he continues to illegally destroy our entire fucking government and screw over working class people. And being the laughing stock of the country truly is his worst nightmare. But it's what he can look forward to basically for the rest of his life because of the things that he's doing. Actions have consequences, and if you hurt people, they're going to hurt you back. So given what we know about Elon Musk, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that ruthlessly mocking him is basically a form of resistance at this point. In fact, I think it's his kryptonite, and as more regular people and comedians remind him how weird and lame we all think he is, he's only going to try even harder to be liked, which is going to make things even that much worse for himself. So in conclusion, I think that we should all make fun of Elon Musk even more, because that's how you resist at this point. But before we go, I do want to point out one more thing about Bill Burr. He has been making himself a target for right-wingers lately because of the things that he's been saying. In particular, his support for Luigi Mangione has turned some heads in right-wing circles. In particular, Ben Shapiro, back in December, he wrote an article titled "Bill Burr Goes Full Asshole," where he argues that Bill Burr went woke. And he came to this conclusion after seeing one of Bill Burr's live shows. And what I love about this is that Bill Burr was asked about Ben Shapiro's comments in an interview with the New York Times, and he had the perfect response, saying, "All he knew is if he put woke on what I said, he would make more money. I don't know who he is, but that guy is a jerk off." And that's exactly right. And the fact that Bill Burr is pissing off these kinds of assholes, billionaires and billionaire bootlickers like Ben Shapiro, I think it just goes to show you that his comedy actually is subversive, unlike the other comedians like Joe Rogan, who bow down to the rich and the powerful and bring them on his podcast to let them lie to his viewers about how the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is actually bad for regular people, when the opposite is true. I mean, so many comedians these days, they grovel at the feet of the powerful, which seems antithetical to comedy, because you're supposed to poke the powerful. You're not supposed to punch down on marginalized people, but that's what they're doing. Bill Burr, however, is one of the few comedians who is actually speaking truth to power, and that's why he's beloved by so many people.
Luigi not happy.